from any specific domain, the process of the entire life cycle of a data science project will be almost same. Okay, so let's proceed without wasting any time. So the first that we are going to discuss is what is the agenda in this, right? So in the agenda, we'll try to understand who's the data scientist, what are the life cycle of a data science project, and then work of a data scientist, and then we'll discuss about the roadmap. Now, before going ahead, always understand, if just consider this, the universe of, you really want to work in data science, just consider this yellow box as universe. Okay. And here, this universe is called as AI. Okay. AI basically means artificial intelligence. Now, what is AI? Here you are actually creating applications in such a way that it will be able to do all the functionalities by itself without any human intervention. This is how you can actually define an AI, an artificial intelligence application. Some of the examples you can see is Netflix, self-driving cars, and many more things, right? You have Amazon.in website, it is a kind of AI application. And over there, at the end of the day, like some of the functionalities I'll talk about, self-driving cars, it will actually help you to travel from place A to place B, where you don't have to drive. Netflix provides a lot of recommendations, of what movie to see. Similarly, Amazon.in provides a lot of recommendation, like what products you should basically buy, that kind of suggestion. Over there, human intervention is not required. How your history will be, how you're basically selecting the products, how you're basically seeing the movie, based on that it will be decided. So just a brief intro about AI. Now, if I come to the next step, which is a subset of AI, which you can actually see this particular circle, it is called as machine learning. Okay. Now, if I talk about machine learning, what exactly is machine learning? Machine learning is nothing but it provides you stats tools to analyze the data, to basically visualize the data, to do some kind of to help you to create some kind of models which will be able to solve some of the problems like classification, regression. It can be unsupervised machine learning techniques also. And there are a lot of things which will actually, and all those kind of stats too, is basically provided by this particular machine learning technique. Here you have some amazing libraries which will actually help you to do all these tasks. Now, coming to the next part, which is a subset of ML, which is called as deep learning. Now, deep learning is, again, as I said, it is a subset of a machine learning. But why deep learning came into existence? Just understand that scientists started thinking, can we make the machine learn like how we human being learn? So in order to make sure that an application can mimic a human brain, that is the reason why deep learning came into existence, right? And here you will be learning more about neural networks. Neural networks basically means you'll be seeing how a neural network is basically created, how you can actually do an image recognition through that particular neural network. All those kind of activities will be actually done with the help of deep learning techniques. Now the main question rises, where the data scientists come into picture? So you may be seeing various roles like AI engineer, ML engineer, DL vision developer, and all. And one specific role is data scientist. Tomorrow, if you are basically getting hired in a company, so company over there, if you have given a role of data scientist, tomorrow any kind of work that you get, let it be machine learning, let it be deep learning, as a data scientist, you should be able to accept it. So in short, a data scientist should be able to do all this kind of task. And again, always understand the final goal is actually to become a, what is the final goal? It is to create an AI application. That is what is basically required over here. The final goal is basically to create an AI application. This is the most important. And these are some of the basic examples between AI versus ML versus DL versus data science. Now coming to the next topic, what is the work of a data scientist? Over here, let's consider that I want to solve a specific project for a data scientist. Any kind of project it can be air quality index, it can be different types of project, it can be whether a customer is going to leave the bank or not, it can be image recognition, it can be any kind of specific projects. Okay, so here what we are trying to find out, what is the work of data scientist. Okay, so here you have a data science project. Okay, the first step always is requirement gatherings. In this requirement gatherings, there will be multiple people involved. One is the business analyst, one is the domain expertise of product owner. A product owner is basically a person who will be owning this entire project. His work will be basically delivering to the company or to the client. Okay, so over here you will be seeing that the domain expertise person and the business analyst will discuss within themselves and try to do all those kind of requirement gatherings, which is basically required for this kind of project. Okay, they'll try to plan up all the sprints, how many stories needs to come up, for implementing the entire project, how many different stories will be coming up. And they will also make sure that from the development side, how many employees they'll be requiring, and all those kind of activities will be done. Okay, after this, what we can actually, the next step that usually goes is that this, once the requirement gathering is jotted down, it will be sent to the data analyst or data scientist or the analytics team. And now this particular people will be doing the discussion with domain expertise or product owner to find out from where can we collect the data, because data is the most important thing in this kind of projects. So what they'll do, they'll have a discussion with the domain expertise or product owner along with the analytics team, and they'll try to find out from where that particular data can come. Now, data can be available in the internal database, right? So in the internal database also data will be available in the cloud or third-party APIs. In the cloud also data will be available, right? Probably they really have to buy some amount of data from third-party vendors and all, right? So once they find out the sources of the data, then what they do is that they try to collect that particular data with the help of a big data engineering team. They will store it in some kind of database, right? So here your big data engineering team will come, right? Where probably along with the big data cloud team may also come, where they will decide like how they should basically store the data in the databases. It will be huge databases like Hadoop databases, MongoDB, different kind of databases can be basically used. Okay. Then after that starts the life cycle of a data science project. Okay. Now extensively the entire analytics team. Now how many roles we have actually seen over here? We have seen domain expertise, product owner, business analyst. We have actually seen data analyst, data scientist. We have seen the big data engineering team. We have also seen the cloud engineering team, right? Now, when we go to the life cycle of a data science project, here mostly the data science team will basically be involved. So first step, what is in the life cycle of a data science project? You have something called as feature engineering. Then you have something called as exploratory data analysis. Then you have handling missing values, handling outliers, category encoding, normalization, standardization. These are some of the techniques that we do in feature engineering. Why this particular step is very much important? Because understand that when the data that you will be collecting, it will not be that clean. The format may not be right. It may have some kind of missing values. It may have a lot of categories. Sometimes you'll not be able to even understand that particular data. So what you have to do is that for analyzing it, making it perfect, you have to actually follow this particular steps, where you'll be handling, you'll be cleaning, you'll be making sure that the data after all these steps will be a high quality data, which you'll actually give it to the model to do the further predictions, right? So very much important step. Now coming to the next step, which is called as feature selection. Now suppose in my data set, I have 1,000 and 1,000 of features. Now the next question rises, are all the 1,000 features required? And the answer is no. So in this particular step, what we do is that we'll only select those features that are important. And inside this, there are various techniques like correlation, forward elimination, backward elimination, univariate selection, random forest importance, feature selection with decision tree. So different techniques are actually there. And probably I cannot go more into this particular technical thing. If you really want to follow, I've already created all this kind of videos in my YouTube channel. Okay. Then you go to the next step. Once after this two particular step, what is the most important data. You have the clean data. Now you actually do the model creation and hyperparameter tuning. In the hyperparameter tuning, you have various steps like grid search CV, randomized search CV, Keras tuner, Bayesian optimization. These are some AutoML techniques like HyperOpt, genetics algorithms, Optuna. So all this, some of them are actually AutoML techniques, which will actually hyperparameter tune your model itself. That basically means increasing the quality of the model. Okay. Now coming to the next step after this, now my model is ready. It is performing well. The accuracy is very good. Suppose now what we do is that we plan to deploy this particular model in the cloud. Now for the deployment also, we use some kind of process called as Dockerization, where we Dockerize this entire model. After Dockerizing it, what we do, we do the model deployment. And then we do the deployment in different clouds platform like AWS, Azure, Heroku, GCP. I missed that particular Google Cloud platform, but that can also be used for doing the deployment purpose. Now, after the deployment is done, then on the new data, the prediction is done from the model. And again, all the accuracy is basically checked again and again. If the accuracy comes down, then again we really need to do the model monitoring and retraining purpose. And when we do the retraining, it again has to go back to the feature engineering. Probably there will be adding more amount of data and all, and we'll continue the life cycle again and again. Okay, so this is the entire life cycle of a data science project. I will give after I complete this PPT, I'll give one example of a use case, like how we should basically define all these things, and it'll make more sense. Okay, now work of a data scientist. I've already shown you this particular diagram. Now let's understand the roadmap to the data to become a data scientist. So first is what all programming languages you need to focus on. Second is mathematics concept, which all mathematics concepts you should be very, very good at, because maths is huge, so obviously it is not possible that you have to be very, very good at from everything that you should know, but some of the very important topics where you'll be able to solve a lot of business use cases. Coming to the third part, that is statistics. Then you have databases, then you have machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, and finally, which are the cloud platforms you should focus on. So let's go. As usual, without wasting any time, I don't want to waste and tell you that you have to learn multiple programming language. Instead, you can learn Python and R. Yes, there are different programming languages like C++, Java, but understand Python has many number of packages. If you are probably planning to go towards data science in core, probably do a lot of things in deep learning, I would suggest go with Python. Yes, there are researchers who also go with C++, because always understand whenever a new library is basically created, first an API version is basically created with the help of C++, and then same API is exposed to the Python programming language also. Now coming for the maths for data scientists, what are the maths that are required? So I'll divide into three main sections. One is calculus, linear algebra, and statistics. Okay, so calculus, linear algebra, and statistics. Calculus basically means what is derivative. Some of the other way integral will be used. How you have to derivative is just like finding the slopes, guys. Okay, so just understand in this particular way, these are some of the topics that will be required. In linear algebra, obviously, right, everything can be represented in vectors. If you want to perform any kind of operation like matrix calculation, a lot of distance from one point to a plane, this all kind of questions usually comes in this. Linear algebra is also a very, very important subject altogether. Okay? I think there's some disturbance. Okay, sorry. Okay, now coming to the next one, which is nothing but statistics. Statistics is also very much important in terms, because whenever you're dealing with this kind of projects, there is statistics involved, because this has huge amount of data, and any maths, any types of visualization you have to apply on that particular data, statistics will come into picture. Okay, now coming to the next one, what all statistics topics we really need to learn. This is very much important. I have divided this into two parts, that is basic statistics and advanced statistics. So here you can see basic statistics and advanced statistics. In basic statistics, what are all the topics that is basically involved? Here you can see probability. I've written, and for this I've created two playlists, okay, in my YouTube channel also. So if you go and check out my YouTube channel, there you'll be able to see these two playlists. So here you can see introduction to basic terms, variables, random variables, population, sample population, mean, population distribution, sample distribution, mean, median, mode, range, measure of dispersion, variance, standard deviation, Gaussian normal distribution. All these topics have already been explained in this particular playlist itself. Then you have QQ plots, Chevinev's inequality, discrete and continuous binary distribution, and log normal distribution, power law distribution, box cost transform, Poisson distribution, application of non-Gaussian distribution. So these are some of the topics which you really need to know. After learning all these particular topics, what will happen is that you will be very much comfortable with all data related things, like how we can visualize, analyze, explore the data, right? By using all these particular things, you'll be able to learn some information about the specific data. And again, you can check out my playlist where I've actually included all these particular topics. Now, coming to the next step, what are the databases that are required? Now, always remember, whenever you are going into data science, two different types of databases is required. One is SQL database, one is NoSQL database. Here I've used named different types of databases, but understand in this particular databases, it can be either SQL or non-SQL, okay, or NoSQL. So you have Cassandra, MongoDB, SQL Server. This is from Microsoft. MongoDB is also there. Amazon S3. So this is nothing but a storage unit that is provided with the Amazon Cloud Service. Then you have Google Bigtable, you have Hadoop, you have Elasticsearch, MySQL, Hive. These are techniques that are basically used in big data and to store the data efficiently. And here you use different kind of databases. Even in industries, they use either one of this particular database in short to do most of their work. Okay. Now coming to this machine learning roadmap. Now we have understood about the databases also. So okay, in machine learning roadmap, I would like to talk about three important things. One is supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, and reinforcement learning. So in supervised machine learning, what we do is that we basically say that whichever data has labeled data, we have different algorithms to solve that particular problem statement. In supervised, we usually have two different, if I talk about in supervised, it is basically having three different types. Okay, one is, as I said, supervised, right, unsupervised, and the last one is basically reinforcement. Okay, and usually in supervised, we usually solve two types of problem. One is classification, and the other one is something called as regression. So this two problem statement we basically solve. In unsupervised machine learning, we use a clustering technique, and in reinforcement, we have a lot of reinforcement techniques where we can train a bot, we can train a game, something like that. Okay. Now, if I talk about one very important thing in supervised, what are the different types of algorithms? You have like linear regression, right? You have logistic regression. You have decision trees. You have random forest. You have XGBoost.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Sorry. Is there a problem? Sorry. Okay. So you have all these kind of algorithms. In clustering, you have k-means algorithm. You have hierarchical mean. You have dbScan. So different algorithms are basically used in this kind of things also. So all these kind of algorithms I have already created in my playlist where you can actually check out. But again, understand what is the main aim over here is to basically predict, probably I can take one example. I want to find out the price of the house in Bangalore. Okay. So this may be a problem statement. For this, I may have a specific data. This is a kind of supervised problem statement. And we know that the price is usually a continuous value. So this becomes a regression problem statement. So if you go and check out my ML playlist in my channel, this entire roadmap is basically been mentioned with all the explanation over there. Now coming to the next one, which is nothing but the complete roadmap to prepare for deep learning. These are all the things that you should basically learn with respect to deep learning. One is introduction to neural network, loss function, optimizers, gradient descent, stochastic gradient descent, ADAGRAD, RMS prop, ADAM optimizers, and all. So you will be starting from left to right. In the left, it is very much simple. Artificial neural networks you start with, then you probably make multiple projects with the help of ANN. Then after this, what you have is that if you really want to understand about this, you have something like convolution neural network, you have transfer learning techniques, you have object detection, RCNN, you have deployment projects. And then when you go to the right hand side, you basically have RNN, LSTM, GRU, word embeddings. All these particular techniques are there. And right now, the most advanced one, which are there, basically transformers, BERT, Hugging Face, and K-train. Okay, now these all things are actually there. And when I talk about transformers, Hugging Face, and all, this really works well with NLP data set, so natural language processing, which is basically required in order to do various tasks that is related to text data. Here you use this particular techniques. In machine learning also you have various techniques. And if I talk about these topics like word embeddings, word to vec, right, these are techniques which will actually convert your word, your text data into some vectors. because understand model will not be able to understand words. So they really need to see some numerical data over there. And that data can be, that entire text data can be converted into vectors, which will be in the numerical format. And for this, you have libraries like TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, K-Train, NLP, and all. Okay. Now, coming to the next one, you also need to understand the complete roadmap of natural language processing, because natural language processing is again another field. If you see most of the companies, the startup that are coming up now, they are really working on natural language processing projects and all. Okay. So here you'll be able to see introduction to neural network, loss function optimizers, text pre-processing like GenSim, word2vec, average word2vec, solving machine learning use case, getting the understanding of artificial neural network, then again that LSTM GRU, and all those steps is again repeated over here. If you really want to specifically follow the NLP part, then this is the roadmap that you should follow. And again, here with respect to NLP, you have various libraries like Spacy, NLTK, TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, which will actually help you to implement all these particular things. Okay. Now, what are the combined frameworks for both machine and deep learning that you really need to be good at? One is NumPy, then you have Pandas. These all are some amazing free open source libraries. Flask, Django. Django is nothing but Django and Flask are nothing but they are web frameworks which will actually help you to develop a lot of applications end to end. Then you have libraries like Dask. Dask is useful for parallel pre-processing. Then you have SkyPy. Matplotlib is basically used for visualization. Seaborn is also used for visualization. Then you have NVIDIA CUDA libraries. This NVIDIA CUDA libraries works very well if you have GPUs. Like in my system right now, in which I am actually sharing my screen and all, it has a GPU that was gifted by NVIDIA, and the GPU name is Titan RTX over here. And with this help of CUDA libraries, I'll be able to train bigger models in deep learning, which requires parallel processing. Then here you also have the libraries like Keras, TensorFlow, PyTorch, Caffe. Then this is the machine learning library, which is called as Scala. Okay, so all these things are actually present, which is pretty much amazing, and you really need to be good at all these particular frameworks. Now, if I just talk about web development frameworks, then you have Flask, Django, Web2Py, TurboGuest, CherryPy. So these all are some open source frameworks that are given where people can actually use it, try to create anything that you really want. Okay, and many people, many of you who are doing research, who are actually working in the industry, they come up, they're using this libraries extensively. Now, libraries and tools with respect to Python. As I said, that Python is an important one. So you have NumPy, Pandas, Seaborn, SkyPy, Matplotlib, Plotly, Dask. See, Plotly is a library which is used along with Python itself, where you'll be able to do some amazing use cases again. Okay. If I talk about libraries and tools with R programming language, then you have data manipulation in R. This is a library that is used, DPLYR, data visualization in R, ggplot. Then you have for data wrangling. Then you have this dynamic report generation in R, and you also have this Shiny library. Okay, so all these things are there. Okay, now coming to the next one. Apart from these libraries, you also really need to be good at some of the business intelligence tools. That is like Tableau and Power BI, because after your model does the prediction, probably you really want to populate some data and probably create a business intelligence report. So for this kind of things, you can use this kind of business intelligence tool like Tableau, Power BI, and all. This is really very important because those reports can be shared to the stakeholders who may not have programming knowledge, but just by seeing the reports, they will be able to come to a conclusion that what should be the next decision to be taken. Suppose just imagine that if a bank wants to open a new ATM from a specific area, how they'll decide? They'll actually see the reports, they'll try to see the transaction, how much it is happening, what is the flow of transaction, how many people are actually coming over there, and based on that, they'll make that specific decision. And those all reports can be actually made with the help of Tableau, Power BI, ClickSense, Dundas BI, Pentaho. So these are some of the business intelligence tools that is also being used. So these are some of the examples of Power BI reports and Tableau reports. Here you can see probably this is the sale report, this is the quarterly reports. So all here you can see amazing graphs, and these reports will be sent to the stakeholders who will then make a specific decision about what to do in the next step. Then talking about the cloud platform, guys, obviously it is Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform. And in this particular platform, you will basically be doing the deployment of your application of your machine learning or deep learning models itself. Now, let me just give you a very good example, which I really wanted to showcase in the case of end-to-end projects. Okay, just let me know whether you are able to see my black screen, guys. In the message, I think it will be
Yes,
fine.
sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So if I talk about end project, okay. So let me just go ahead and talk about end-to-end project. How does an end-to-end project look like? Okay. Now, suppose I have a project which is like air quality index. Okay. So what is this air quality index? It is nothing but you are basically need to forecast or predict the air quality index of various cities based on some parameters. Based on some parameters. Now, what are the parameters that you can have? You can also put your comment in the chat so that we'll try to make this interactive. Okay, so what are the parameters that you can basically use in order to predict air quality index? Air quality index basically says that how is the air quality of a specific city. Okay. And if I talk about air quality index, we obviously know, right, of cities like Delhi, right? Delhi has a high air quality index, right? Nowadays, due to pandemic, it is becoming low. If I talk about Bangalore, it may also have a air quality index high. And here you'll be able to see they from the meteorological department and all, they'll obviously make some red color air quality index or green color air quality index and all. So yes, so many people, if I talk about the first step, let's see. So as I said, from the life cycle of a data science project, what is the first step? We'll start with the data gathering, right? So this is basically my data gathering. Okay, now tell me, for data gathering, what all things I need to be dependent on? Data gathering, what all things I need to be dependent on? So first of all, I need to find out which all data are important. Now in this particular case, let me talk about some of the features. So here I'll start designing my project. So I'll consider my feature one. My feature one can be rainfall. Okay, I'll just make this as rainfall. Suppose I may also say average rainfall. If we are having continuous rainfall, will the air quality index become good or not? Tell me. Yes, will it become good or not? Because all the dust particles will come down. So obviously, if we have rainfall, definitely it is going to become good. Then we can talk about humidity, right? We can talk about various gas information also, like NO2, some of the important pollution gas, pollutants, right? Which we can basically discuss about this. And these all are basically my features, right? How is air quality index determined? If I talk about this, let me just search about it. In air quality index, how it is determined, okay? Is determined. So here I'll just talk about it because this is important. They will be using some 6 to 7 parameters, the entire air quality index. And if I search for it, let me just see. Okay, stagnant air, not able to see that particular thing, but just understand that you have a lot of features over here with respect to that. Now, where you will be able to get all this particular information? Okay, where you will be able to get all this particular information? Don't you think there will be some kind of third-party APIs which will be able to provide all this information? So obviously there will be third-party APIs which will be able to provide all this particular information. So what you do is that you continuously take this as live stream data initially, live stream data, and in this live stream data, what you do is that you involve some people in the cloud and the big data team. Here you also fix the frequency, like how frequently you need to take this particular data. Suppose I say every 10 minutes I want this particular data, right? So you decide this frequency and then you store all these particular parameters. Okay, so let me write some more features over here, right? Otherwise it will look not good. Okay, so apart from this pollutant, I may also go ahead with carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, right? What is the level of that? Sulfur dioxide, SO2, nitrogen oxide, right? Different chemicals and features we'll try to see. And here, my output feature, what will be my output feature? Here I can definitely say my output feature is basically my air quality index. It can be, I can label it from, suppose I say low as 1 to 3, moderate as 4 to 6, high as 7 to 10, and very high as above 10, right? So these are my various categories. Understand this. Okay, these are my various categories, and these are the outputs that I can have. So I have to define a model, create a model which takes these features and basically gives us this specific output. Okay, now once we take this entire live stream data, now from this particular live stream data, we will store it in some kind of database, right? Again, what is the database and all, you don't have to worry about, because this will be decided by the big data team based on the live stream data that we are getting it. Now we go with the life cycle of a data science project. Life cycle of a data science project, of a DS project. And what is the first step over here? Again, we start with feature engineering, right? I told you feature engineering, what we do some facilities like EDA, then we go and clean this data, right? We handle the missing values, right? We handle the missing values, we handle the category features, right? All these things we do. And then we go with the next step, that is feature selection, where we select only the most important feature. Then we go with the model creation. Now my model creation will be what? Whenever it takes all this particular feature,